Riven Tides from Arc Raiders is finally here, and there's a ton to dive into from the new content, a few surprises, and gameplay changes that you should know about, so in this one, we're running down just that. Share your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe to stay updated with all things Arc Raiders and even more FPS content as we gear up for all of this with Riven Tides and beyond. I'd love to have in the community. Finally, thanks to Embark Studios for sponsoring this video. But okay, first let's talk about content. Of course, the biggest thing here with this is the new map of Riven Tides. Positioned on the coastline of the Rust Belt, we're going to the beach. This one has your standard rotation, but with a minor map condition called beachcombing and other majors like Night Raid that we've seen so far in the earliest of rotations here at this. Overall, the map's sizing, it seems like it's much smaller than some when you open up that sort of tack map that you have, but it still feels pretty large traversing from end to end. It's kind of an odd feeling because it does feel small at points since most of what's important is tightly compact into that interior of the map, but by sheer scale, if you run from end to end, it does feel kind of different there. So I'll have to do a bit more testing other than a few preliminary matches to see the adequate comparison to what we have map sizing wise. But locale, you have 4 important POIs. You have high tier loot of the Panorama Azoro Hotel, the Port Authority building, and medium tier of the Stacking Yard, Customs Elevator, and a few others spread throughout the map that don't have as high designated loot zones, but still can spawn you some decent stuff from time to time. Seems like there's a few interesting puzzles that can also be seen around this. I did briefly find a puzzle in Stacking Yard. Almost cracked it solo, but ran out of time with that. Surely someone else finishes this off by the time that I jump on again, finding all the buttons you need to open up a specific door. But this map's got a ton of arc. That's another thing to be conscious of. Plenty of your patrols of your flying arcs, your leapers, bastions, bombardiers, and so on, and a lot of them overlapping in their patrol areas. So there are going to be times when you may just stumble upon way too many enemies and have to back off. Speaking of arc, the arc turbine was added. Now, admittedly, I actually have not seen this just yet through probably 5 to 7 raids or so preliminarily. I feel like I'm getting insanely unlucky, but I've yet to see it, but I've also seen quite a few people talk about the deadly power of it. So it does seem like it will be a formidable foe here for us raiders, but I've also seen people say it's in Beachcomber and Night Raid, but that the spawns are less frequent in the standard conditions, so that might be something you want to Q snipe here for this, but we've detailed this a bit at length leading up to this in yesterday's video, so not to dwell on it too much, especially without proper insight, but it's there. Be careful and bring some firepower if you want to take it out. We have a new project of the Avian Alarm, where the premise of this is to set up bird cages and build out a map-wide alarm system based off the bird sensitivity to atmospheric changes, but you can get a decent number of things here in this project with some interesting legendary items like the anvil splitter and guitar. But all in all, it's still just a project and you don't necessarily need to complete it, but it was just an added little bonus. Now, the first page of the 5 is actually an interesting deviation from what we've seen before. You don't just jump right into collecting items. Instead, that starts on page 2. The first of the pages, you have to actually set up a bird trap near the buoys in Riven Tides, so a challenge and quest to start out this project. After that, you're home free to collect items. It's just smooth sailing as you're normally used to from there. We also have a new event called the Miniature Voyages, where this tasks you with getting merits from either XP or bonus merits from finding model ships, and you'll end up getting a bunch of cosmetics, mainly a new set, along with a few other things. Now, you don't necessarily need to alter your game in any way, but if you're a loot demon like me, this will help out tremendously if you find those models in increasing rarity. I may have misread my after-action report, but the legendary model that I found was 250 merits alone, so nice little boost there. One item bringing you an entire tier up in those event rewards. These you can end up finding in a lot of different residential areas. If you end up doing the Beachcomber mode, there's a chance that you spawn a lot of these in suitcases you can dig up and things like that. This is around for another 27 days and a few hours and change, so you have plenty of time here with this. We also have new quests. Surprisingly, it doesn't appear that all the new quests are specific to Riven Tides and that new map alone, but to have access to all these is probably going to depend on where you are in your quest tree and how many you've started, likely as other updates have. I had an immediate access to 3, being only about halfway through quests this side of the last update and the wipe there, so it does seem like they're introducing more to the masses rather than requiring more and more to be done before you can get to those new ones. But if you're interested, make sure you check those out. I mean, one of the starting quests you end up getting from Apollo actually grants you a Riven Tide keycard, so might be nice to have, might be nice to just do that very quickly. We ended up seeing a handful of new items introduced here with this into the loot pool. You have the Crash Mat, which is something that you can throw down as a deployable that mitigates fall damage. The Powered Descender is a sort of jetpack but really just to slow your fall as you jump from a higher elevation. It's not something that will take you upwards or anything like that, but it's something that will mitigate that fall damage in that capacity. There's a new augment of the Tactical Mark III Smoke, where this is basically an upgraded version of the Mark II, and they did add a dev note that they said, with the addition of another tactical augment in this patch, it's worth stating that we're aware that some augments, particularly the combat augments, are not performing as well as their roles as we'd like. We're working on a general balance pass for augments to buff some of those that are underperforming, most especially the Combat Mark III Flanking augment, which is yet to find its place to shine. It's also a goal to develop a full roster of augments to ensure that all categories are well represented. So my guess, we're going to see some of these changes here for this within the next month or so. They're announcing it, getting us ready for these changes, but we don't know quite yet just what this will be. Now, the Dockmaster Detector was another item introduced, where this is a new metal detector gadget of sorts. Useful right now on the Riven Tides map, especially during the Beachcomber event. Haven't personally tested it too much in regular matches, but I would assume there's also usefulness here that you can dig up stuff, but in lessened amounts of spawns. But very nice to have on Riven Tides. Maybe we end up seeing this come to other maps in the future as well. But the main focal point right now is utilizing it for that Beachcomber event. But this, you activate it and it's on a battery akin to the Snap Hook and Photo Cloak. Might even be sharing those. I haven't tested those back to back, swapping from item to item, but it'll start pinging when you're in the general area of an item that you can dig up. This can be a handful of things, from a suitcase to a raider container to mines and ticks. So not everything is going to be something you want to dig up, but you don't know until you actually do dig it up. The burn rate is relatively quick, but it's very easy to repair, so you don't have to worry too much. Now, Embark in the reveal did mention this was a weapon slot item, but it's actually just a quick use item, so no real sweat on that one. Easy to use, easy to stow in your safe pocket if you feel inclined to do so. We also have, funnily enough, a white flag common deployable item to signal your intentions from afar, or perhaps maybe deception, but that was added in as well. Beyond that, the expedition window, open for just under the next 2 weeks until May 11th. That has been opened up now, where you can end up working towards your damage totals and of course getting those skill points via damage and making sure you actually get into the expedition as well. But okay, let's talk about the game changes, because there's certainly a few of note. Big ones to start here are the weapon economy adjustments. We had a few things that definitely changed the weapon economy here going forward in Arc Raiders. Firstly, we have a new feature of repair on upgrade. So many times you'll end up seeing something where you have to kind of balance if you want to upgrade or repair an item, or if you plan to do both, you're kind of double dipping. You have to double resource drain, which you never like to do. But this allows weapons, when being upgraded now, to repair 25% of that weapon's max durability. So it's a big update to weapons. I can't tell you how many times I've found a weapon and wanted to upgrade it, but had to weigh the options of repairing it first. This will now end up repairing it a little bit with that upgrade, so you don't burn as many resources doing both. Big change, good change there, I think. Now, there's a weapon and drop durability change here at this one, which is going to be interesting. This one's probably going to be a little controversial, but it reduces the weapon spawns around the outskirts of the map to increase the value and tension of higher tier areas and locked rooms on the interior of the map. So what you find on the outskirts are going to be a little less rare and a little more worn down after this update. It increases that range of durability the weapon can spawn with, as well as reduces the average outside of locked rooms. So this will now be something that you'll see the average durability on a spawned weapon being 50 down to 30, meaning you're going to find more worn weapons than anything else. These changes mean that you might find a weapon on the outskirts with 15 durability, but still find weapons around 60, and that what was the average beforehand durability in locked rooms, giving just more weight to those higher tier areas. So again, some people may like this change, some people may hate it. But we also see that weapon durability loss on shot has been adjusted, where the epic and legendary weapons, those will not burn at as high a rate anymore. But your basic weapons, those ones that are incredibly easy to craft, those are going to be burned through so quickly. So your common weapons, you're going to see a 75% durability loss on shot increase. That means things like your Stitcher, Kettle, and the like will end up almost burning at twice the rate that we've seen so far. Not quite, because of course it's a 75% increase, but your uncommon weapons follow suit, where it's a 50% durability loss on shot. So things like your Anvil are going to be burning a little bit more. Rare weapons like your Canto, Renegade, and Osprey, those will have a 35% durability loss on shot increase, meaning they're going to have a slightly quicker burn rate than before. But your epic weapons, your Bobcats, Tempest, Volcanoes, things like that, those are going to have a 5% durability loss on shot decrease, meaning they're going to last just a tad longer. Legendary weapons will have a 10% durability loss on shot decrease as well, meaning, again, those are going to last a little longer. So your weapon durability on loss is going to be adjusted there, and even when knocked out, this is going to change the economy to make PvP a little more viable in terms of gathering that loot off dead enemies. They said we want heavy PvP to be a viable way to play in Arc Raiders, and to align with this playstyle and other ways to play, we're reducing the durability loss on weapons when a player is knocked out by 50%. Durability loss on weapons of knocked raiders have been changed from 30% to 15% durability loss, meaning weapons will now be a bit more viable when picked up off knocked raiders. As for balancing, there was a handful of things here at this where the Patino was one of the first things up on deck. They said that they've buffed this to push it closer to its rarity. The base damage and damage against arc armor has been increased to get more value out of each bullet, but the base fire rate has also been reduced. So a bit of a balancing act there, packing a bit more of a punch, but also reeling back in how fast you can shoot and land those shots that pack a punch. The dispersion has also been adjusted to support firing the weapon in longer bursts before losing accuracy, and the stack size of heavy ammo has also been increased to make it less punishing to bring the ammo you need. These changes should make each shot matter more, while also providing the ability to land more shots if you control your burst well. So that base damage was increased from 14 to 16, the base fire rate was reduced from 285 to 235, the per shot dispersion was reduced by about 40%, which is definitely noticeable here, that making bloom a little slower compared to what you'd see beforehand. The dispersion recovery was improved by around 30%, and the damage against arc armor was increased by 30%, making it even better against the arc enemies as compared to before, which is nice. The trigger grenade ended up getting a bit of a nerf here at this, where the devs said you can no longer throw a new grenade at the same time as triggering a previously thrown one, and instead we'll have to wait for the animations to finish. This should reduce some of the spam we see, increasing the delay between each grenade and effectively removing the ability to prematurely detonate a second grenade with the first one. So they added a 1-second delay after the throw action before allowing that next throw or trigger action, and added a 1.3-second delay after using the trigger action before allowing the next throw and trigger action. The photoelectric cloak was also adjusted, where they mentioned specifically it's been quite aggressively overperforming, especially in regards to the length of time that it can be activated. This change is intended to add more intentionality between uses. It still has the same strength while activated, but now you might need to find cover sooner, or think more about how you approach areas heavily contested by arc. Now, they increased the weight of the photoelectric cloak to make it a bit more, I guess, of a risk item to bring with you, from 1 to 3 kilograms, but that I don't necessarily know is the bigger change here. They of course increased the power rate from 2.5 seconds of a use to 10 per second. So that's where you're going to see that drain come a little bit quicker. Item stacking was adjusted, where stack size for vaporizer regulators was increased from 1 to 3, and stack size was increased from 40 to 60 for heavy ammo. As for your general content and bug fixes, there are a few things to note, but a lot of things that are also just like fringe cases that you may never have even considered were a problem or anything like that. The stuff that we definitely want to mention though come down to, firstly, movement. The crouch movement speed was now capped to force a walk speed when using certain items, but the bigger thing that I think here that's a bit ambiguous with how it's worded is they fixed an issue where heavy landing could be triggered at incorrect times. Now, I could be wrong and I'm not entirely sure on this, but I feel like this could be the tripping randomly bug that we had since the Flashpoint update, where if you jumped around where a ledge was, it would basically like trip you on that ledge and you'd stumble and fall. Half the time it'd be something that you'd end up like falling over that edge as well, sometimes triggering even more damage at the bottom, other times actually being something that negated fall damage altogether. So it was a weird bug that happened that sometimes worked in your favor, sometimes didn't, but I think that might be fixed now with this update based off of that patch note. Emotes, all slots are now custom bindable, so you don't have those ones that are just 100% always going to be certain actions. You can change these now to your liking. They also reworked some of the emote system to allow even more emotes to be played while running, so that's something to note. General arc fixes for those on controller: they fixed aim assist not targeting leg joints and weak spots on bastions, bombardiers, queens, and matriarchs. They also fixed an issue where vaporizers and arc surveyor patrols could stop moving until alerted, and they fixed an issue where arc enemies did not react to nearby breaching sounds. So of course, that now giving you away once again after this update. But again, I think that was more of a fringe case that sometimes it would happen. I still definitely have noticed things like that in the past. The vaporizers were added to more map conditions and more maps in general, so you'll see those around the world there. They adjusted the bastion a bit, where the bastion could be too accurate when switching targets mid-fire. So you've seen probably some clips of people getting absolutely sniped from across the map that shouldn't be happening now at this point. They should have sort of rolled that back a little bit. Beyond that, they added a bit more stability, some changes that should help the overall gameplay experience. The PS5 Pro version of the game is now available actually as well, so that's something that you can end up taking advantage of with this update for PlayStation players. They added a few new UI adjustments that are definitely nice, like enabling multi-select and inventory by default on project screens now. They added challenge previews to the practice range, so you can review challenge details before actually starting. When acquiring new resources from the in-game menu now, it'll give suggestions for crafting priority over recycling items so you don't lose anything, which is nice. They added a show hide tooltip prompt to the inspect tab of the inventory, and a few other things intermittently. Now, on screen is the rest of the scrolling patch notes because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's more so fringe use cases and things that you probably would never even considered needed to be adjusted, and some very specific items. So those, to save you the monotony of reading off every single patch note for the next 10 minutes or so, we'll just have that scrolling on screen that if you see something that catches your eye, maybe it's something that helps you out, but again, just to save a little bit of time here at this. But all in all, that is the Riven Tides update that we have here for Arc Raiders, offering in a few surprises, a few new items that we didn't quite expect, like the new augment, the white flag, stuff like that are smaller adjustments but do have some implications on gameplay. But a lot of the content we saw was previewed as of yesterday, but today was more so about the features, the quality of life updates, the gameplay changes to things like the weapon economy, other balancing changes and things like that. So that's what you really need to take away here from this update. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down below in this one. What do you think of the Riven Tides update so far? You liking it? Disliking it? Let me know. If you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so it's a single thing running all things Arc Raiders and even more FPS content I'd love to have in the community. Once again, a big thanks to Embark for sponsoring this video. But until next time, I'll see you guys out there. Actually, probably going to be live shortly after this video goes up. So if you want to hang out, talk about the update, see everything in action for yourself, love to have you out there. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.